Hey, Shawnee from SpeechBeView.com. I love fewest move solving, and I finally had an average that I'm fairly proud of. There were definitely mistakes, and I'll go through that. In Pittsburgh Fall 2021, I had an average of, or Mina 3, and it averaged around 27 moves, and I want to go through those solves. The very first one, I got a 32. That was my worst, and it seemed to be the worst for a lot of people. First, let me talk about my methodology. When I go into fewest moves, I don't go straight to domino reduction, which is what a lot of people do. I feel like that's boring, and I feel like I miss a lot of things. So the first thing I do is basically just look for pairs. It takes less than a minute to kind of go through each side to see if any pairs form. And if I see anything, I'll just write that down. Then after that, I will start doing some edge orientation and just start going through as many as possible and altering some to see if I can do something extra with it. If I see something special, I'll mark it down, or if it's really obvious, I'll just start checking out and see what happens. After that, then I start going through those EOs and see what I can find. Some of those can go really nicely into domino reduction, and some don't, and I'll just start pairing things up. So let's go through that first 32 move solution. I will put the scrambles in the description below, as well as my tutorial. So if you are new to fewest moves and you get lost in some of this, check out that tutorial. Here we have the scramble, not really a lot going on. And the first thing I did by just checking for pairs was F prime. And I made a pair here and a pair there. Really nice two pairs that kind of reminded me of our roux solve. And so I did some stuff with that. Actually, what I did here was I did the inverse of the scramble. So for those who don't know what that is, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that F prime backwards, so an F, and then do the scramble backwards. So then I'm in like the inverse of everything. I guess it's kind of like, no, it's not the mirror dimension. That's a bad example. So F, inverse of the scramble. And now here, we should still have the two pairs. And I made a 2x2x2 block, but a pseudo 2x2x2. So we've got F, and then L prime, and then F again to make that. Actually, there's the pseudo 2x2x2. And then it says I did B prime. So it was the 2x2x2, but I connected that as well. So really, it was that in 4 moves, but I added an extra 1. Now I made this into a 2x2x3 by just putting the green and red edge right here, which was right there. So D, R, U prime. So I've got a 2x2x3 in 8 moves. And from here, what I did was I went back to the regular, the non-inverse, and did edge orientation because it was only 2 moves from there. So I'll finish just solving this real quick. Okay, the inverse of what I did before. So U, R prime, D prime, B, F prime, L, F prime. Then the scramble. And then the F prime. Okay, EO is super great here. We've got a bad edge here, here, and here, and right there. So just B prime, D. And we've got EO. And from here, I went back to the inverse. So let's check that out. And with all of this, I was checking things in between. So I don't think I have my notes anymore. I planned on going through my notes and showing you everything I tried. But basically, every time you get anywhere, just try the inverse, try the regular. So one tip I have for a lot of things when you have like the F2L, just try different things. Like you can do a D2 and it doesn't change EO, and then it'll just add 1 move. Maybe you'll find some extra pairs, which is what I did. I did a D2 and then R prime, B prime, R. And I made a pair and a pair. And then B2, made a block, D2, and then I just inserted that edge. So we've got L, B prime, L prime, and then B2. Left me with 4 corners, 3 corners, and then 1 twisted. And then was just inserting 2 commutators The first commutator solved to 3 corners and the other one solved it. Not great insertions, 8 minus 3 and 8 minus 1, leaving me with a 32. There's a lot of options after I did EO that I could have found, but the 4 corners left in 20 moves I was happy with and left with that. I was kind of running out of time. So not a great first solve, but like I said, everyone kind of struggled with that first solve. So the second scramble, the first moves I did were on the inverse. So I'm going to do the inverse first. And I actually did EO with white in front. And this is what I mean by doing extra moves. So this is something that I started doing recently, and it opens up so many doors. And if you're doing EO, keep this in mind. Okay, so bad edges from here. We've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4 back here. So what I could do, and what I did at one point was L2, F prime, B, and then U. Not bad. But if I backtrack a little bit, so after I do L2, I've got 2 bad edges here and here, and here and here. Nothing's on the D face. So what if I just do a D2? And then F prime, B, U. Suddenly I've done EO and I have a square as well and another pair here. So you just open up doors by doing one extra move that does nothing to EO. And then from here I did the 2x2x2 with a D2 R prime. So 2x2x2 and EO in 7 moves. Not bad, not great. And I'm going to then just finish this real quick. I always get to this point where I don't know if it's faster for me to just backtrack what I did or just to solve the cube. So again, now I'm on the regular, the non-inverse. I've got the 2x2x2 and EO for white and yellow. With this block here, makes a really nice square with one more move, and L prime gives me a pseudo 2x2x3. Meaning that if I add an L on the inverse, it will make a regular 2x2x3. Now here's another suggestion that kind of goes along with just try stuff. So I do the LB prime. Let's go to the inverse now. And there's that L to finish that 2x2x3. That's not a pseudo block anymore. So what I used to do is I would always try to do like a whole step on the forward or inverse, or I guess if I get a pseudo block, like get that step up till there. But you can literally just do moves. So for example, like if I just do a U2 here, it doesn't really do anything, does it? But it sets up pieces in different places. So I couldn't really find anything to do here. So I just started trying stuff. So I did a U2 on the inverse and then went back to the regular. And this is what ends up happening. And now just pieces are in different places. So I've got this block there, which can be really nice. And what I ended up doing was R, B2, R prime, which made that block. I could just pair that up nicely. U2, and then B. And in 17 moves, I have 4 corners. And this is where some really cool stuff came in. My first one canceled 6 moves, which gave me 3 corners in 19. And here is a failure on my part. Pretty much 100% of the time, I will find the optimal solution when it's just a single corner insert. And I think any top solver for fewest moves will do the same. It's fairly easy to find those. And somehow I didn't. And I found an 8-1, which gave me a 26, but there was an 8-3, which gave a 24. Don't know how I missed it, I just did, and that would have been a really nice change, but yeah, got a 26, still happy with that. I think it was Derpy Cooper who said that this is a very old school method of doing it, where you just have crazy insertions after having, let's say, 3 corners left, and yeah, I really like doing that. That's kind of what I like to do. So this last one actually did do a domino reduction. Let me do the scramble first, and it just happened to be this that after trying some stuff out, it worked out really nicely, and I decided to go forward with it. So first thing, EO again on U and D. I think sometimes when people start doing EO, they do just front and left side. And don't do these because it's kind of more awkward to look at, but you're basically missing out on a third of all of your options. Without going into detail about where everything is, we've got D prime, L prime, R2, B, and then U. Here we've got EO. Nothing super crazy, some blocks there. And then DR. So just, I guess, looking at this, for DR, I did a setup move with an R prime, which gave me then 1 bad edge and 4 bad corners. Couldn't really find a good setup from here. However, from this angle, we've got our 1 bad edge right there. And then the 4 bad corners here, here, and here. And I guess also that's the bad edge. So what you're looking for to do here is to get 2 corners on either end of the bad edge here, and then the ones there as well. I was kind of vague of what I just said there, but if we do D2, that puts one of those right there. And then U2, that puts that one right there. So really nice setup. Bad edge, 2 bad corners. And then B prime. And now we are all set up for our trigger, which for this one I did L, D2, L. And now we have domino reduction. Blue and greens on either side, and corners are also oriented. And then to finish my skeleton for this domino reduction, I went back to the regular. And so we've got our domino reduction, and we've got B prime, D2, B2, F prime, U2, which leaves me with 3 bad edges here and 3 here. So 3 edge in 17. Pretty good for domino reduction. And my first insertion was 8 minus 4. Second one was 6 minus 2, leaving me with the 25. From there, I looked very, very quickly to see if there's anything I could cancel. And I tried one thing and I said, oh, okay, I think I've got it all. Should have looked a little bit harder, because within about, 5 seconds of Derpy Cuber looking at my solution, he goes, oh, you could have canceled that, without even trying with the cube. So again, could have had a 24, but had a 25. So I could have, instead of having my 27.67 average, it would have been a 26.67 average with just thinking a little bit harder about it. But either way, I'm happy with my average. Like, it was pretty good. I mean, I've said before that sort of the line for, I would say, an advanced FMC solver is a sub 30 average. And I've had those at home, but finally I have one at a competition. Could be better. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I made these mistakes and just, more possibilities, more options. But this is my favorite event for this reason. So let me know what you get below. Check out the Scrambles, see what you can do. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you at a competition in the future.